How the heck are you guys? This is an exciting time in Watcher of Realms because we are getting two new heroes, Pierre and Rosalia. Is it Rosalia? Is it Rosalia? You let me know in the comment section, but it is definitely Pierre, and he is the topic of today's video, the first of many videos on these two new heroes. They are going to be our Valentine's Day heroes, the painter couple, the painters. We've got our painter right here and our paintress over here. We can finally share the kit. We can finally reveal it to you guys. So let's hop right in. I want to let you know right out of the gate, they have very complicated kits. So I'm going to dive very, very deep in this video, and then the next video, which will cover Rosalia, and I'm going to just explain every nitty-gritty little piece of nuance. Well, first off, if we just glazed over it and went into a showcase, you wouldn't understand what was going on. And if we went really deep on it and then went into a showcase, the video would be an hour and a half long. And I don't want that to happen. So this video, we are doing a full kit reveal and a full hero review on Pierre. Without further ado, let's begin. Also guys, really quickly, this video was a doozy, and we have several more doozies of a video coming with Pierre, with Rosalia, and with so much testing. So if you appreciate what we're doing here and you want to stay updated on everything, please do subscribe to the channel. Pierre is a mage, mostly an AoE mage, though he does have single target capabilities, but a mage with dual faction membership in the cultists and with the chaotic. That is pretty dang interesting. He synergizes very, very well in both of those factions. With the cultists, he's a big AoE magic unit that is very relevant to cultists. And he does the signature cultist thing. He puts out a very large amount of crowd control in any AoE content. In his case, that is slow. His slow is not, or the slows he puts out are not the strongest in the world. They're right middle of the road at 50% slows, but the uptime is unbelievable. He keeps those slows up like constantly. It's very, very, very good. It is very reliable. Then as a chaotic unit, he does a really nice job of keeping his health low, because he's dealing so much of his damage through summons. By the way, another way he synergizes great with the cultists, he puts out a lot of summons, but because it's the summons doing the damage, it's the summons that are kind of the focus, he's a little bit off to the side for a lot of content, which is nice, because then you don't care if his health is low. Very infrequently will he get hit if you're playing properly and you're building the right comp around him. So all in all, I just think he's pretty great. The place he's going to shine the most right now, there are two places that come to mind. AoE Arena, he's just very unique there because he can start eliminating the back row in AoE as soon as it starts because of his summons. He actually has two types of summons. He can summon these things called Prismites, which are kind of like these little ghouls that come out, and then he can summon a Prismarch through his ultimate, which essentially is part of him. This Prismarch is basically permanent if you build him correctly, and I'm going to explain how to approach it here and how to use him correctly. But he has those smaller summons with the Prismites. Those are really nice. And then this Prismarch has a huge, huge range as well. So they can just take out the whole map near the portal in AoE Arena. Very, very nice. Also, he will shine bright like a diamond in Matrix 1. Yes, he's a good AoE hero. However, the reason I think he'll be next level is he does such a phenomenal job of keeping those stacks on the boss low. He's putting out such a huge number of hits between all his summons and how frequently they're able to put out damage. So he's going to allow you to keep the boss from evolving and growing and powering up at the rate you're currently used to. He's going to be the best solution to that in the game. All right, let's hop into the kit. Let's start with the base stats. They are very good. For an AoE magic DPS, for an AoE mage, he has very high attack at just over 5,000. Nearly 5,100 attack. For perspective, this is close to like Praetus' level of attack, where Praetus functions more as a single target with some AoE. We've got Pierre here, who's an AoE who can kind of become a single target. Like I said, we're going to circle back to that. As for his defense, basement. Magic resistance, pretty good. The health, it's okay. It's kind of average. This is important, though, because he's going to share his health with the Prismarch and his other summons. So you're going to want some tankiness depending on the content, and he can get the health higher and higher and higher through his overlay passive that you're going to hear about in this video. The cost is very good at only 15, and it gets way better in Arena. I'll tell you right now, he's got an Arena Mastery that reduces this by 5. So he costs only 10 to deploy in Arena. That is pretty sweet. If we look at that base attack interval, that's the last really significant thing. He has a 2.6 second base attack interval. Pretty dang fast for someone who's essentially a strong AoE mage. So I think they designed these stats pretty darn well. Rage regen based off of his basic attacks is 10. It's on the low side, but it's all right. I think he's in a good spot. The damage is not going to blow your mind, but it's definitely good. The damage combined with all the other capabilities definitely makes him a very, very powerful unit, and he's going to be meta or borderline meta in multiple pieces of content. So let's kick it off with this extremely long talent. Is this the longest talent in Watcher of Realms history? I'm not sure, but it's definitely up there. It's not as complicated as it seems, right? It starts getting complicated when you start clicking on all these highlighted things, but don't worry, I've spent hours going through all this, hours testing him, and I think I've got a pretty good hold on it. So let's start on the top here. When he is deployed, he instantly will drain 50% of his health. That might sound like a negative, but like I said, in most content, he's not getting hit very often, if at all. So you want his health as low as possible, assuming you're using him in the Chaos order. If you're using him in a Chaos comp, then yeah, you want him at 30% or less health, and he's so good at keeping his own health low. As long as you don't have like a really good healer next to him, he can be under 30% HP the whole fight, which is excellent because you just want him hitting as hard as possible. Let's go to the next part of the talent. As with any talent in Watcher of Realms, each sentence is kind of its own thing. This is just a new talent now. It's an additional effect, and it just keeps going like that one after another. So here you go. Every 3 seconds, he can summon a Prismite. Those are the little ghoul things that you see when you bring him into battle. He can summon one of those from a completed portrait that he has created. And what kind of Prismite that will be depends on the number of enemies in his basic attack range. So very quickly, I'll show you. He has a very nice basic attack range. It is 5x3. This is akin to like Beelzebub. It's a very strong range. And I will tell you, he gives this basic attack range to his Prismarch. That is his primary source of damage. This giant paragraph over here, that's like the big monster summon that he can put out. Both he and the Prismarch make good use of that range. It might be Prismarch, by the way, but I'm not sure. So for now, we're going to say Prismarch. I looked it up and could not find a straight answer. So let's pick up where we were. What is a portrait? What does this mean, a completed portrait? Blah, 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 blah. Well, it all comes down to his basics, so I want to jump here now. His actual basic attack, what Pierre does when he basic attacks, is something we've never seen before. He does not hit anything. It's not an attack. It's not an assault on an enemy. He does not heal. He does not share a buff or debuff or support effect. He just sits there feverishly painting. Now, why is that significant? Well, every 5 feverish paints, he is going to do a couple things. He drains his HP a further 30% of the current HP he has. So let's think he was at 50% after his deployment. He's going to drain it down to 35%, right? 30% will be 15%. Subtract that from 50. There you go. So the first thing he does is he drains his HP a little bit more. So this helps him reliably keep his HP very low, which, like I said, is very valuable for Chaos comps when you're using him in that kind of content, which I suggest. I think that's where he shines the best. And then also, every 5 feverish paints, he's going to create a portrait. And he has these portraits with him. These portraits essentially serve as portals or doors through which the Prismites can be summoned, and that's it. The final thing, every 5 times he paints, he's going to restore 20 rage. So he makes a portrait, he drains some HP, and he gives himself some rage. This is all really good. The actual motion is just him painting, making portraits. He can have up to 3 at a time, and then that's it. All the other effects, all the other damage, everything else that he's doing is coming from the things he summons. The Prismites and the Prismarch. So we can go back now to the talent. I hope you understand the basic attack. It's very weird. We've never seen anything like it. He's just a very weird character, a very OP character, but a very weird character. So to pick up where we left off, every 3 seconds, if he has some completed portraits, he's going to summon a Prismite. He can have up to 2 Prismites at a time unless he's A3 or higher. I'll tell you that right now. You can see the number of Prismites that can exist on the field cannot exceed 2. But what are Prismites, and what does that mean, the type of Prismite? Well, there are 2 Prismites he can create, the Malachite Prismite and the Cobalt Prismite. Now, the Cobalt Prismite is going to be his more common summon because you're going to use him in AoE content. The Malachite Prismite, though, does give him some viability in single target content. So let's start with that one. How does he summon the Prismite Malachite? Well, when he goes to summon every 3 seconds, if he has a completed portrait, and there's only one enemy in his range, he will summon a Prismite Malachite. So he will summon the single target Prismite, that's essentially what the Malachite is, if the number of enemies in range is 1, and that's it. It's pretty simple. What does it actually do? It's not the strongest, but you will see at the bottom of the talent, both the Prismite Malachite and Prismite Cobalt come with their own additional special effect, and they synergize well with each function that each one of those Prismites has. But the Prismite Malachite will inherit 100% of Pierre's stats, and then it attacks enemies within his range or the Prismarch's range, right? The Prismarch is the big monster summon that we're going to discuss when we get to the ultimate. That's significant because they could have different ranges. You actually personally get to decide where to physically deploy the Prismarch. It's not like an auto summon like with either of these Prismites. Sorry for all the crazy words. Like I said, he has a crazy kit. But it's going to be able to attack anyone in either of those ranges, and those attacks will deal 70% single target magic damage. They cannot hit airborne units, and they will naturally disappear or perish after 15 seconds. If we go now to the other type of Prismite, Cobalt, this Prismite is summoned when the number of enemies in range is greater than 1. So if it's 2 or more, he is going to summon a Prismite Cobalt. And this actually does the exact same thing, except it's AoE. So it's still 70% damage, but it's AoE damage, and instead of hitting 1 target, it's hitting up to 5 enemy targets. You can see that right there. Very nice. You might be thinking, oh, the Malachite summon is very underpowered in comparison. Kind of yes, but let's get to the special effects now. It can deal extra damage, whereas the Cobalt cannot through the same mechanism, so that's relevant. But I will say, all in all, he's going to be a lot better as an AoE unit than a single target unit. But for newer accounts, he'll probably shine for a lot of things, so it's good that he has the optionality. I like units like this, you know, like Pierre. You can think Nezah is a great example, who can function as both a single target unit and an AoE. An old classic is Xena, right? She effectively is a single target or AoE, depending on how her damage scales, depending on the enemy targets. We've seen it before. I think it's a cool thing to have in the game. Now, let's go to the special effects. Each attack that the Prismite Malachite does, so this is the single target Prismite, it's going to increase its own damage and the Prismarch's damage by 5% for 5 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. If you have stuff to continuously hit, as you will in single target content, I'm thinking mostly of boss content, or typically you will, right? Boss content, you definitely will. You'll maintain 100% uptime on this. Essentially, it's getting a 25% damage boost, and it's also giving that boost to the Prismarch. And most of the good stuff is coming from the Prismarch's damage, so this is a nice synergy, and it's going to increase relevance for single target content. However, the Cobalt summon, the AoE Prismite, this is going to be the most relevant in general because he's at his core, he's an AoE unit. And you'll see the special effect that happens with the Prismite Cobalt is that it allows the Prismite Cobalt and the Prismarch to inflict slow when dealing damage. And this is a very good slow. Slows come in 3 forms, essentially, unless you're counting Immobilize as a slow, which we're not. So there's minus 25%, that is a very moderate slow. Then minus 50%, that's a good slow. And then minus 75% is a fantastic slow. If you want to include Immobilize, that's minus 100% movement speed. That's essentially a stun. But minus 50%, middle of the road, pretty good. What is not middle of the road and what is very good is the 5-second duration. So through the Prismite Cobalt and the Prismarch, he's putting out consistent, big AoE 5-second slows. The Prismite Cobalt can hit up to 5 enemy targets in either Pierre's range or the Prismarch's range. That's a great start. And I'll tell you right now, as we transition to the ultimate skill, the Prismarch can hit freaking 10 enemy units. That is a ton. And if he's in AoE mode, if we've got a Prismite Cobalt out there, he's putting out those huge slows. So the uptime on slowing everybody is immense. This is really, really good in a lot of content. So let's go to the ultimate now, and let's see what it's all about. It is an auto ult, which is pretty interesting, but it will make sense once I explain it. So essentially, it costs 800, and you have 800 initial cost. As soon as you deploy Pierre, after a slight lag, you will be given a Prismarch. Now, what do I mean by given a Prismarch? Well, you're going to get the Prismarch as a deployable unit that you are in control of. Now, that might sound really weird in this game, but we've seen it before, right? Elowin's Wood Elf, essentially, when she triggers it, it pops up on your deployment bar on the bottom of the screen. It's the same way with this big Prismarch monster. You're going to get him, and you can choose where he goes. If I actually go out here and show you, you'll see the creation of the Prismarch, and you'll see when he goes to actually go place him. So watch this video right here. Let's wait. There's the Prismarch. You saw those green tiles light up? Those were all deployable spots. You can put him wherever you want, wherever you're able to deploy a melee unit. It doesn't have to be inside of Pierre's range or not. It can go anywhere on the field. So this is going to be really valuable in a lot of content. Another thing I have not mentioned, it's going to be a key piece of content for both Pierre and Rosalia. They're going to be fantastic in Malric just because of how huge the range they both have is. And then Pierre's another level because he has a huge range, and then you can drop the Prismarch, which is also going to be a major, huge range. The Prismarch has the same 5x3 basic attack range as Pierre as well. So you drop down Pierre, he's going to do more HP drain, so now another 50% of his current HP to himself. This is a really nice thing because if we combine this with the talent, you deploy him, he loses 50% health because of the talent. Then he immediately ults, right? Auto ults with full rage. He's ready to go. That's going to cut it another 50%, so he'll be at 25% health. That's less than 30. Fantastic chaotic synergy. And you'll see after he does that, he prepares a Prismarch. It will appear in the bottom on your deployment bar, and you can place the Prismarch where you want. So what is a Prismarch? We've been working up to this moment for a while now. Got to move myself out of the way. A Prismarch is a summoned unit. It's a big monster. You can see the pink-purple monster guy that pops up here. Just reset, but you'll see it in a moment. You will get him, and then you can deploy him on a selected tile. He inherits 110% of Pierre's HP, so that's kind of nice, a little extra tankiness, and then he gets 100% equal of all the other attributes. He has 3 blocks, so he is like a functioning melee unit, and then each basic attack he deals does 130% magic damage to up to 10 enemies. He increases his damage multiplier by 20% when there's only 1 enemy in range, so that's another way that the Prismarch and Pierre can be used in some single target content. Finally, he's able to self-cleanse every 5 seconds, so he will fully dispel all of the debuffs on him every 5 seconds, if there are any. He also cannot attack airborne units. That's a theme throughout Pierre's kit. Nothing can attack airborne units. And he will naturally perish after 30 seconds. However, he will never perish in a lot of AoE content if you're using him correctly. Frankly, he won't in single target content as long as he has something to consistently hit. Final thing to note, only 1 Prismarch can exist at a time. Only 1 can be deployed at a time. If we go back to the ultimate now, let's go to the second part. If a Prismarch already exists on the field, that Prismarch's duration will be extended by 15 seconds instead whenever this ult comes up. So if you can keep that Prismarch alive and you can keep the duration extended, and we're going to see how we do that with the passives in a second, if you can keep that going by the time the next ultimate comes around, you will get a very good benefit. You'll further extend its duration by 15 seconds, and it will reduce the attack interval of the Prismarch as well as all the Prismites by 15% for the next 15 seconds. So this is really clutch. You can have it going a lot faster, you can have it surviving, and you can allow that Prismarch to be fully developed. So what do I mean by fully developed? Let's go to the first passive now. This passive is called Overlay. When the Prismarch attacks, it will increase its AoE damage, max HP, defense, and magic resistance by 2%, and you can stack this up to 14 times. So 14 stacks would be a 28% boost to AoE damage, max HP, defense, and magic resistance. So nice and tanky, big HP, big defense, big magic resistance, essentially magic defense, and big damage. AoE damage also increased by 28%. However, the second part of this passive is how we're going to keep the Prismarch alive and basically make him a permanent summon. Whenever any Prismite or Prismarch attacks, it will extend the Prismarch's duration by 0.6 seconds. Doesn't sound like much, but he only has a 2.6 second attack interval, so you're going to build him with 1.3, 1.4, 1.5 seconds per attack once you put some attack speed on him. Between all the Prismites hitting, the 2 Prismites you have out there, plus the Prismarch, you're going to get enough hits every 1.5 seconds or so that you can permanently increase the duration of the Prismarch, and you'll keep full uptime. This means you'll have full stacks from Overlay, the Prismarch will have the increased AoE damage, the increased tankiness, so on and so on. Very good stuff. So this is very key to understanding his kit. You just need to use him in content where there's stuff to hit consistently, and you need to make sure he's not insanely slow. But if he's a decent speed, you're going to get that Prismarch perfectly, which is very, very nice because you want it maxed out. You want all these Overlay stacks, you want all the benefit. And you'll get even more benefit if you get Rosalia, so you unlock Pierre's Bond skill. By owning Rosalia, once you obtain her, you will unlock the special bond skill permanently called Spectral Resonance. And this essentially just increases the max stack limit that you get from overlay by 6. So all those attribute bonuses we discussed, 2% per stack, you're getting 6 more stacks, so another 12% of everything. So instead of capping out, once you've made your Prismarch permanent, instead of capping out its AoE damage boost, max HP boost, defense boost, and magic resistance boost by 28%, you're getting another 6 stacks. 6 times 2 is 12, 12%. So it's all maxing out now at 40%. So a 40% boost to AoE damage, 40% boost to max HP, 40% boost to defense, 40% boost to magic resistance. That is huge. So this is a really nice bond skill to pick up. The final passive, and I promise we're getting towards the end now, the final passive is Perspective. Whenever a Prismite, whether that be Malachite or Cobalt, is within the Prismarch's attack range and launches an attack, they will ignore 25% of the target's magic resistance, and they restore 2% of the Prismarch's max HP to the Prismarch. So basically, if you've got a Prismite in the attack range of the Prismarch, those attacks are going to deal more damage because they're shredding magic resistance, they're ignoring that magic defense, and they're going to help keep the Prismarch alive. So very, very nice stuff. Final thing we have to talk about is the Arena Mastery, then we'll quickly go through the Awakenings. The Awakenings are very good. Though the A5 is very nothing at the moment, I've reached out to the devs for clarification. Stay tuned on that. We'll get to the A5 once we do the first 4. So this one's simple. When you use him in Arena, his cost is not 15. It is reduced by 5. It goes down to 10. So he's very viable in the Arena, particularly AoE Arena. I think he shines so much there. I think he could be a meta-shifting unit for AoE Arena. At the very least, he'll be off-meta and phenomenal for progression. But I have really high hopes because he can really just start taking out those backlines immediately. Something very, very few heroes can do, and he does it very well. On to the Awakenings now. The A1, it is clean and it is beautiful. After the Prismarch gains 14 stacks of overlay, so that's the cap before you get Rosalia. That's the standard cap. 14 stacks, 28% boosts to all those attributes. After the Prismarch gains those, it will also additionally gain permanently the Perspective effect. What is the Perspective effect? That's the second passive we just discussed, and this allows whatever units benefit from it to shred 25% of the enemy magic resistance and to restore additional health to the Prismarch. So now the Prismarch, not just the Prismites, are going to be ignoring 25% of magic resistance. The Prismarch deals a lot of damage, so that's very, very, very clutch. Big magic resistance shred, ignoring 25% of that. And the Prismarch plays a role in keeping himself alive now even further, restoring 2% HP every hit. So that A1 is very good. On to the A2, clean, simple, you know it, you love it, plus 300 attack. We've seen it many times before, but of course, we like it a lot. That brings his attack to almost 5,400 at base. It's like 5,384, something like that. Super, super high. The A3, this is also pretty simple, but really good. The total number of Prismites that can be summoned, whether those are Malachite or Cobalt, is increased from 2 to 3. So that's a whole extra summon you get to have on the field. That is really, really good. Additionally, after the Prismarch is deployed, each one of the Prismarch's first attacks will grant an additional stack of overlay. So if we go back to overlay quickly now, this passive, all the attacks from the Prismarch are giving you a stack of overlay up to 14 stacks or 20 stacks, depends on whether or not you have Rosalia. But now those first 5 are going to give not 5 stacks, but 10 stacks, 2 each. So you're going to get to max stacks a lot quicker. You're going to get to unlocking the effect of the A1 for the Prismarch a lot quicker. Very good stuff. This is a very, very cool thing. I think up to A3, the Awakenings are very valuable for Pierre. A4, 8% penetration. He's already ignoring a lot of magic defense from the passive we discussed over here, the Perspective one. It starts with the Prismites, and then once you have him A3, it also is lent to the Prismarch. But another 8%, as good as that is, it's not really game-changing. Finally, the A5, this just makes no sense to me. I've tested him at A0, A3, A5. I don't know what this is doing. It says, summons Prismite, Malachite, and Cobalt based on the number of enemies on the field. We know that. You get that at A0 from the talent. That's just part of his kit. Additionally, new talent effect, Prismite Malachite and Prismite Cobalt can assist Prismarch in attacking enemies within Prismarch's attack range. That is just part of his kit. If we go over here, you can see I am on my A0 Pierre. If we click on either Prismite, It's already included. These can attack in the Master's attack range or the Prismarch's attack range. I don't get the A5 at all. I've done some testing. I can't figure it out. I think they just made a mistake or they forgot some text. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you appreciated this video, please let me know in the comments. If you didn't, let me know in the comments. This was a really hard video to make. I want to give a shout out to Behemoth, who I discussed this character with ad nauseum, and then I went in and I did a ton of testing. Then I did more testing. Then I read his kit, and then I reread it 20 times, because frankly, he is up there for one of the most confusing characters in the game, but TLDR, he's really good. So I cannot wait to go get him. Hopefully they make some kind of guaranteed ancient way to get him. I am hoping he's going to get like the Dracula treatment and maybe 90 summons and you can get a guaranteed copy. Fingers crossed. Big TBD there, but a boy can dream. If you like my content, please do subscribe to the channel and give the video a big thumbs up. Thank you to my editor, Mitchell. I've been Fastidious. Share it with your mother, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.
Fastidious.